I know this is crazy, but can you pretend to be my date? Just for one night, please. Declan Ashford looked up from his daughter's coloring book to find a woman standing beside his table, her eyes desperate and brimming with unshed tears. She wore a server's apron, her name tag reading Iris. Her hands trembled as she glanced toward the restaurant entrance. Through the glass doors, a man in an expensive suit was stepping out of a black sedan, his expression cold and determined. "He won't leave me alone," Iris whispered. "If he thinks I'm with someone, maybe he'll finally stop." Declan's 8-year-old daughter, Sophie, looked up with wide, concerned eyes. Every protective instinct in Declan surged. He recognized that fear in Iris's face. He'd seen it before, years ago, in his late wife. "Sit down," Declan said quietly, his voice steady and sure. Iris sank into the chair just as the door opened. The man, tall, polished, radiating entitlement, locked eyes on Iris immediately. Declan reached across the table and gently took Iris's shaking hand in his. "Just breathe," he murmured. "I've got you." The man approached with a smile that felt like a threat. "Iris, I've been calling." "I've been busy, Preston," Iris said, her voice barely steady. Preston's gaze shifted to Declan, calculating. "And who's this?" Declan stood slowly, his 6'2" frame commanding presence. Years of running a successful company had taught him the power of calm authority. "I'm Declan, Iris's boyfriend." Preston's jaw tightened. "Boyfriend? She never mentioned you." "Maybe because her personal life isn't your concern," Declan replied evenly. Sophie piped up suddenly, her innocent voice cutting through the tension. "Iris is really nice. She always gives me extra whipped cream." Something in Sophie's innocence deflated Preston's aggression. He looked at the little girl, then back at their joined hands, his face darkening. "This isn't over," he said coldly. "Yes, it is," Iris whispered, tears spilling over. "Please, Preston, just leave me alone." Preston stared for another long moment before turning and walking out. The door swung shut behind him. Iris collapsed into quiet sobs. Sophie immediately wrapped her small arms around Iris. "It's okay. My daddy's really good at helping people." Declan knelt beside Iris, his voice gentle. "Are you all right?" She nodded, wiping her eyes. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have dragged you into this." "Don't apologize. You did exactly the right thing." Over coffee, Iris's story emerged in painful fragments. Preston had been her manager at her previous job. He'd pursued her relentlessly, refused every rejection, and made her workplace unbearable until she quit. But he'd followed her to every new job, always appearing with gifts and promises, never accepting the word no. "I filed reports," Iris said, staring at her cup. "But his family has money, lawyers. Police said there wasn't enough evidence." Declan's hands clenched. His late wife, Evelyn, had dealt with something similar before they met. It had taken years for her to feel safe again. "How long?" he asked gently. 8 months. I've changed jobs 3 times. I can barely make rent anymore." Her voice cracked. "I'm so tired." Sophie looked up from her coloring. "You should stay with us. We have extra rooms." Iris smiled sadly. "That's sweet, honey, but—" "She's right," Declan interrupted. "I have a guest house on my property. Empty, private entrance. You'd have your own space. And if Preston shows up again, he'd have to get through me first." Iris stared, stunned. "I can't accept that. You don't even know me." "I know enough." Declan's voice was firm but kind. "I know you're kind to my daughter. I know you're being stalked. And I know what it's like to feel unsafe." Paused. "My wife dealt with something similar before we met. It had taken years for her to feel safe again." Tears streamed down Iris's face. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" "Because someone once told me that kindness isn't optional, it's mandatory. And maybe you're not a stranger. Maybe you're just someone I haven't had the chance to know yet." Paused. 3 months passed like gentle waves reshaping a shore. Iris moved into the guest house and slowly began to heal. She found work at a quiet bookstore cafe. Preston appeared once, but Declan's security system and attorney convinced him to finally back off. But something unexpected was happening. Declan was falling in love with Iris. It was in small moments. Iris teaching Sophie to braid hair. Iris laughing at his terrible jokes. Iris leaving fresh muffins with notes saying thank you. It was how she listened when he talked about Evelyn. Never jealous, just present. She understood that healing wasn't linear, that you could honor the past while reaching toward the future. One evening, Sophie asleep, Declan found Iris on the porch steps, gazing at stars. "Can I join you?" She smiled. "It's your porch." They sat in comfortable silence until Iris spoke softly. "I've been thinking about that night when I asked you to pretend." "Yeah?" "You didn't have to say yes. Most people would have looked away." Declan turned to face her. "You asked for help. How could I say no?" "Because people do. All the time." She glistened. "But you didn't just save me from Preston. You saved me from giving up on people altogether." "Iris." "I know this is complicated," she whispered. "I know you're still grieving. I know I'm a mess." "You're not a mess." His voice was fierce. "You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. And yes, I miss Evelyn every day, but she'd want me to keep living, to find joy again. And Iris, you've brought joy back into this house." Tears streamed down her face. "I think I'm falling in love with you, and it terrifies me." "Why?" "Because what if this is just gratitude? What if I'm confusing safety with love?" "Then we take our time. We figure it out together. No rushing, no pretending. Just real." She leaned into his touch. "I've been pretending my whole life. Pretending I was okay, wasn't scared. That night I asked you to pretend, I didn't realize I was asking for something real." "Neither did I. But I'm glad you asked." Paused. 6 months later, Declan watched Iris teach Sophie to make pancakes. Flour dusted Iris's nose as Sophie giggled, batter splattering everywhere. Iris caught his eye and smiled, that genuine, unguarded smile he'd completely fallen for. She'd stopped looking over her shoulder, stopped flinching, stopped apologizing for existing. Later, after Sophie was tucked in, Declan found Iris on the porch. "I got promoted," she said, nervous energy radiating. "I can afford my own place now." Declan's heart raced. "You don't have to leave." "I don't want to stay in the guest house either," she continued, trembling. "I want to stay here, with you, with Sophie, if that's okay." Declan pulled her close. "That night you asked me to pretend. You gave me something real. A second chance at love, at life. So yes, Iris, stay, not as a guest, as family." She looked up, tears of joy streaming. "You taught me that sometimes the bravest thing is asking for help, and sometimes the most beautiful things start with a simple question. Like, can you pretend to be my date? Like that. Except now there's no more pretending." He kissed her then, soft, gentle, real. Sometimes love doesn't announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes it walks up to your table, asks for help, and changes everything. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, subscribe, and comment.